There is a company from Albania that makes an estimated $1.4 billion in annual turnover. It owns Albania's international airport, has one of the tallest skyscrapers in the country, and controls a majority of a national fuel supply. All of this built in 35 years by a man who started off with his own petrol station in 1991, where that founder is now worth over $1.8 billion. That company is Kastrati Group, the largest privately owned conglomerate ever built in the Albanian world. But here is what makes it interesting, because how does a company that built its power by selling fuel become the company that powers Albania's renewable future? And this is not a question about whether Kastrati should build renewable energy sources. They already do that with their investments in solar technology. The real question is whether the company that controls Albania's physical infrastructure can connect those assets into a visible energy system before someone builds it around them. Because this is a pattern across every major infrastructure business in an emerging market right now. The physical platform exists, the energy transition is accelerating, and the gap is who can connect them efficiently first. Albania generates over 97% of its electricity from renewable energy, making it one of the cleanest electricity generator profiles in the world. But the country's transport systems, logistics, construction sites and fuel stations run almost all on imported oil, with diesel and petrol prices in Albania being amongst the highest in Europe. Albania is producing clean electricity, but it's importing expensive fuel. And this is where Kastrati sits directly on both sides of this gap. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what that distribution gap looks like. What is the origin behind the largest privately owned conglomerates ever built in Albania? It is 1991 and Albania opens up its borders for the first time after 5 decades of communism. This was a huge time of uncertainty for the Albanian people, but Shefqet Kastrati decides to open up his first petrol station. He kept on growing, and the next venture was the MBM port terminal in Durrës, which had 130,000 metric tons of bulk storage capacity and a distribution fleet of 120 tankers. He went from being a fuel retailer to becoming the infrastructure behind the fuel. And that decision is the reason that Kastrati Group controls 36% of the Albanian fuel import market. Most conglomerates' natural routes would be to diversify inside their industry. However, Kastrati decided to diversify into wherever the Albanian physical economy needed infrastructure and it hadn't been built yet. They've gone into insurance, construction and also the highway concession in 2016 with a motorway that links Albania to Kosovo. They also have Autostar, which is the exclusive Mercedes-Benz distributor in Albania. And these expansions were led by the same logic, to go where the physical economy is growing and to get there first. In 2020, they spent 71 million euros to take 100% ownership of Albania's only international airport, Tirana. The airport that in 2025 handled over 12 million passengers and tourists. And this is not just an investment, this is positioning. Because Kastrati now sits in the front door of the Albanian economy. Every person, every business, every tourist who arrives in this country goes through something Kastrati owns. The lesson from the origin is this: Kastrati has always expanded by controlling the infrastructure that makes movement possible. With fuels, port, highways and airport, that instinct has been consistent over 35 years. So let me break down how Kastrati Group actually works. Layer 1 is their energy infrastructure. Kastrati imports fuel through their MBM port terminal that they built in Durrës, where they can store it or move it through their 120 tankers to 150 petrol stations in Albania and Kosovo. And what Kastrati Group got right from the beginning is what most fuel retailers will never attempt. They built infrastructure that helped them vertically integrate from importing that fuel to the final sale. And that closed loop is the reason that they control 36% of the Albanian fuel import market and makes them the premium option in a market that they already dominate. Layer 2 is infrastructure and concessions. They own 100% of Tirana International Airport, have a 30-year concession for the Milot to Marina highway, that is the highway that connects Albania to Kosovo. The MBM port, which is the largest hydrocarbon terminal in Albania. Every infrastructure asset that Kastrati holds is a captive demand point, because the airport itself needs fuel, energy and retail. The highways create movement. The port controls import capacity, and each asset compounds the value of each other. Layer 3 is their consumer and premium services. Alpsig Insurance that controls 20.8% of Albania's non-life insurance market. Autostar, which is the exclusive Mercedes-Benz distributor here in Albania. And the Hilton and the Hyatt Regency hotels under construction in Tirana. And Downtown one of the tallest skyscrapers in Albania and built by Kastrati Constructions. What these partnerships prove is that Kastrati is not just a large Albanian company. It is a credible local partner for global brands. And that trust did not come cheap. It was built over 35 years of delivery. Layer 4 is their new energy vertical. Sunnyside Solar, which was commissioned commissioned in August 2025 in Fier, which is the second solar power plant in Fier now under construction. Power Energy, which is a subsidiary driving the renewable pivot, with Leonard Kastrati, the owner's son, leading the clean energy vertical as CEO. Alpex Integration, which is selling electricity directly on the Albanian power exchange market, and behind the meter logics of using their own solar output to power their assets, which is reducing energy cost exposure in 19 subsidiaries. And this is not some sustainability announcement. It becomes a structural cost play, but the real question is, can it be something much bigger? Because that is exactly where the tension lives. Here is one thing stopping Kastrati Group from completing the transition it has already started. Kastrati has built the supply side, with solar farms in Fier generating electricity, EV charging pilots appearing at some stations, and a Shell partnership creating premium retail identity. Because right now there is nothing connecting the electricity being produced and the moment that it becomes commercially usable by Albania and Kosovo in a visible system. EV adoption in Albania sits at only 0.35% of vehicles in circulation. There are only 143 EV charging points in the capital Tirana, 62 in Vlora and 45 in Durrës, with a lot of that being scattered, unbranded and unconnected to any single energy story. The fuel price context makes this even more urgent, because Albanian diesel and petrol prices are amongst the highest in Europe. Even though we produce our own clean electricity, we import expensive fuel. And in early 2026, due to the Iran war, the Albanian government introduced a cap of 12% profits for fuel importers, which leads to a direct squeeze into Kastrati's core revenue. The root cause is structural, because the pieces exist but the systems connecting them together are not visible. And the urgency itself is also pushed by the Albanian government, who have launched national tender for EV infrastructure across the country. And that's the opportunity in this first mover window for whoever defines Albania's clean energy structure. It is to become the company that makes Albania's clean energy impossible to avoid. This is what I would do if I was leading Kastrati's group strategy. The move is to build Kastrati's Clean Corridor, a connected, visible energy system using every infrastructure asset Kastrati already owns. The starting point is Tirana International Airport as a front door into Albania. Because if Albania wants to be known as a renewable energy country, the first thing that visitors should experience is exactly that. Whether that be solar covered car parks, electric shuffle sheets, or EV charging stations for rental companies, hotel transfers, and airport taxis. Because the airport itself is not a side strategy, it acts as the flagship, as it's the most visible proof point of what the Clean Corridor is. Then you build the routes that are optimized for EV, with Tirana to Saran for the tourism route, and Tirana to Pristina as the commercial route. Because the first EV adopters in Albania will not be the average family. They are the rental fleets, the hotel shuttles, the airport taxis, and the business vehicles. And those are the people that drive those two routes the most. So build them first before building the whole of Albania at once. And make solar visible at these stations with solar canopies, branding, identity. And a big thing that we can do here is making Kosovo a regional proof point. Because even though Albania generates 97% from renewable energy, Kosovo generates 87% of its energy from coal. Alpex already recorded over 209,000 megawatt hours flowing from Albania to Kosovo in 2025. And that's where the commercial product can be clean electricity delivered directly through infrastructure that already exists. Expanded with battery storage, targeted at logistics companies and fleet operations, and businesses moving goods between Pristina and Tirana. Because Kastrati Group has already built and operates that highway, and that can become the physical spine of this clean energy corridor. Because even though the fuel company of the past controlled this route, the energy company of the future can control that corridor. Let's understand the bigger lesson behind Albania's renewable energy market. Albania has one of Europe's cleanest energy profiles and nobody talks about it. I live in Valdez, which has one of Albania's largest hydroelectric power stations. And I grew up hearing from the people that built these hydroelectric power stations. And I got to see the impact that that dam has that still runs today on the Albanian energy infrastructure. And Kastrati's solar farms in Fier represent that same instinct. Albania building its own energy before the world expects it to. And the bigger question is whether that next chapter is just supply, or whether it becomes visible, usable, and impossible to ignore. And not just electricity on a wire, but a story for the world to follow. Kastrati already has a physical infrastructure, the capital, the investment. Because Albania clearly doesn't have a renewable energy problem. It has a visibility problem on that electricity. And that's where Kastrati can come in and fill those shoes. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment which company I should do next. And if you're building in Albania or in the diaspora, or want to learn more about the Albanian business ecosystem, please do subscribe for weekly videos like this.